is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Good evening, Philippines, and good day, world. Once again, it's Monday, November 13, 2023, and you're watching Newsline World. I'm Mayk and Oliveira.
And I'm Deivid Lira. We are here to bring you the top stories we gather from all over the globe.
The death toll of the war between Israel and Hamas reached 12,500.
Despite the ongoing war, the United Arab Emirates plans to maintain ties with Israel.
A Ukrainian military officer was accused of being the mastermind behind the Nord Stream bombing.
In the United States, a mass shooting killed one child and injured 4 other people at the flea market in Pearland, Texas.
And Japan has agreed to share real-time information on North Korea's ballistic missiles with the United States and South Korea.
This and more for tonight's edition of Newsline World.
First in the news, the devastating Gaza conflict has claimed over 12,500 lives on both Palestinian and Israeli sides, according to the data released by health authorities on both sides. The media office of the Gaza Strip's government on late Sunday revealed a staggering death toll of 11,180 people, including over 4,600 children since the outbreak of the current round of conflict starting on October 7. In addition, the West Bank has reported 183 fatalities. Israeli Foreign Ministry modified the Hamas attack death toll on October 7 from 1,400 to around 1,200, according to the Times of Israel's report on Friday. Israeli troops launched an airstrike against Al-Shati refugee camp on Saturday night, killing armed Palestinian militants. On Sunday, Israeli troops captured the Al-Karami area between Beit Hanon and Hawalia in the northern Gaza Strip, as said by Israel Defense Forces, or IDF. During the operation, Israel destroyed long-range rocket launchers aimed at Israel anti-tank missiles, launch positions, tunnels, and observation posts, and killed Hamas militants. The IDF also claimed the capture of some 20 Hamas members who will be interrogated by Israel. Sources of Palestine said conflicts between Israel and Hamas continued in many areas of northern Gaza, and the counteroffensive from the side of Hamas did not stop. A Reuters report on Sunday cited a Palestinian official saying that Hamas announced the suspension of exchanging hostages after Israel attacked Al-Shifa Hospital, the largest medical complex in Gaza. Israel said more than 240 were held hostage by Hamas during its surprise attack on October 7. Only a few of them were released. Meanwhile, the European Union condemned Hamas' use of hospitals and civilians as human shields amidst the war between the group and Israel. EU Foreign Affairs Chief Joseph Borrell has also asked Israel for maximum restraint and targeting in order to avoid human casualties. The National jointly called for immediate pauses in hostilities and the establishment of humanitarian corridors, including through increased capacity at borders, crossing, and through a dedicated maritime route so that humanitarian aid can safely reach the population of Gaza. They also reiterated their calls on Hamas for the immediate and unconditional release of all hostages. It is crucial that the International Committee of the Red Cross is granted access to the hostages.
Hezbollah's first border attack injured civilians in Israel, sparking heightened tensions, Israeli retaliation, and concerns of a border conflict and possible spillover. Shekinah Dakinya has the details.
Hezbollah, an Iranian-backed group in Lebanon, launched anti-tank missiles into northern Israel, injuring at least 21 people, including 14 civilians. The strike targeted vehicles near Deivid, where Israel Electric Corporation employees were fixing power lines damaged in a previous attack. Hezbollah claimed it targeted the soldiers installing surveillance equipment. In a separate incident near Menara, 7 Israeli soldiers were wounded by a mortar, clashes between Hezbollah and the Israel Defense Forces or IDF escalated, with additional mortar launches and rocket attacks from Lebanon. The Iron Dome intercepted some rockets to prevent casualties. Israel responded by targeting Hezbollah sites in Lebanon, including a military compound. Turkish tensions escalated after Hezbollah's leader, Hassan Nasrallah, revealed the group's use of new weapons, including attack drones. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant warned Hezbollah, emphasizing potential consequences for Lebanese citizens. He said that Israel could replicate actions taken in Gaza and Beirut. Hezbollah reported the death of one member, bringing their total reported fatalities to 73 since October 8. Reporting Shekinah Dikinya, SM9 News.
The 7th batch of overseas Filipino workers from Israel, consisting of 39 OFWs and 2 minors, has arrived in the Philippines. Meanwhile, the 2nd batch of Filipinos from Gaza has also returned. Let's find out more about this with Frederico Veloso live. Fred?
Good evening, Mike. OFWs from Israel are very happy to return home as they consider their return here in the Philippines as an early gift to them this Christmas.
Delia, a caregiver in Israel, said that despite experiencing numerous turmoils, the recent conflict was the most intense. At 67 years old, she has decided not to return to Israel.
Itong war na nasa Israel, ito yung pinakamahirap. Sa 27 years ako sa Israel, pang-apat na to na war naranasan ko. Pero ito yung pinaka-worst.
Despite the trauma, Claren feels immense happiness due to the care and assistance provided by the Philippine government. She's also grateful to spend time with her family this Christmas.
Masaya po kasi first time din po makakauwi ang anak ko. So ngayon mararanasan naman niya yung Pasko sa Pilipinas. Siyempre po for the longest time sa 6 years na niya na nasa Israel, puro squad lang. Kumbaga pahapyaw lang na selebrasyon ng Pasko. Ngayon talagang Pasko kasama ang pamilya.
Various Philippine government agencies united to assist repatriates upon their arrival at the airport.
Lahat po ng sangay ng gobyerno ay nagkakaisa sa ating one government approach. Yung ating whole of government are into this at iisang serbisyo mula sa ating gobyerno. Yan po yung ating credo sa lahat ng mga dumadating ating mga kababayan.
The Department of Foreign Affairs confirmed that a total of 77 Filipinos from Gaza have returned to the Philippines. This follows the arrival of the 2nd batch, composed of 41 Filipino repatriates, on Sunday night from Gaza. According to Foreign Affairs Undersecretary Eduardo de Vega, 14 more Filipinos are currently in Cairo, Egypt, and are scheduled to return to the Philippines on Tuesday. The total number of Filipinos who have left Gaza stands at 111, down from the original 137. In the latest tally by the Department of Migrant Workers of DMW and DFA, a total of 19 OFWs have returned to the Philippines from Lebanon, while over 200 OFWs, 7 infants, and 2 minors have returned from Israel, along with 2 OFWs from the West Bank. DMW assures that the government's repatriation efforts will continue.
Tuloy-tuloy po ang repatriation natin. Nakaantabay lang po ang gobyerno kapag nag-decide ang ating mga kababayan na uuwi.
And Mike, that's the latest in the ongoing repatriation efforts of OFWs stuck in the war between Israel and Hamas. Mike?
Thank you very much. That's Frederico Veloso live from SM9 Studios.
Israeli envoy explained that Filipinos with Palestinian spouses cannot easily return to the Philippines and must undergo a process to ensure that they are not affiliated with Hamas. Meanwhile, the Israeli envoy defended their government's decision to launch a war against Hamas. Here's the news from Hannah Jane Sancho.
Filipinos residing and working in Gaza, the center of conflict between Israel and Hamas, are gradually returning to the Philippines. In fact, at least 77 Filipinos from Gaza have already returned to the Philippines, including 7 Filipinos with Palestinian spouses. However, before their return, the said Filipinos undergo a process to ensure that their Palestinian spouses are not affiliated with the militant groups.
Regarding the Filipinos with the Palestinian spouses, there is a process, a clearance, which I'm not part of because this is done by our security apparatuses. Not all Palestinians are innocent Palestinians, and if there are security threats or security concerns regarding some Palestinians, then they would not get permission to leave. I have a feeling that if there are Hamas operatives, I have a feeling that also the Philippine government will probably not want them in the Philippines.
Meanwhile, the Israeli embassy opened its doors to the media to show the faces of the 240 individuals, including 2 Filipinos who are still missing since the Hamas attack on Israel on October 7, 2023. Media was shown raw footage from dash cams and body cams of Hamas members, victims, CCTV footage, and social media accounts from both Hamas and victims. Radio recordings were also played, revealing the horrendous events on October 7, where more than 1,000 died and hundreds remained missing. The Israeli government is calling on Hamas to release the hostages, including a 10-month-old baby and elderly individuals over 80 years old.
We remind again and again that we have 239 civilians, also soldiers, but out of them mostly civilians, Israelis and foreigners, that have been kidnapped, which is a war crime, and taken into Gaza as hostages, haven't seen anybody since they were kidnapped. This is a good enough reason for any government to launch a war to bring those people back home.
As part of the Israeli government's campaign, posters have been released to show the faces of the hostages believed to be held by Hamas. Additionally, there were 33 teddy bears, each blindfolded, representing the young children held captive. The Israeli envoy stressed that their government's only goal is to resolve the conflict by saving the hostages, ensuring Hamas cannot launch any attacks against Israel, and removing the group's terrorist facilities and weapons. Meanwhile, the Israeli envoy hopes that 2 Filipinos believed to be held hostage by Hamas will return safe to their families in the Philippines.
Actually, I just got a message just before we started this briefing, and I'm not sure what, but I got a message from the wife. So I have to speak to her. My heart is with her. I really hope that the 2 will be found amongst the hostages that were kidnapped. I do not know, because we do not know what if they are being murdered or they're being kidnapped, because nobody has seen the 239 kidnapped. Even the number is not certain.
The Israeli government assures that the families left behind by the Filipinos affected by the conflict are considered part of the larger Israeli family turned victims of terror. According to Israeli ambassador to the Philippines, Ilan Flus, there will be monthly financial assistance and support for the education of the children affected by the war. The Israeli envoy added that their embassy is ready to assist the affected families with requirements and aid similar to what Israeli national families receive. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Hannah Jane Sancho, SMNI News.
Well, the United Arab Emirates wants to maintain diplomatic ties with Israel amid international outcry for immediate ceasefire in Gaza, especially among Arab nations. Grataru Omori reports.
The UAE stands true to its statement of sustaining diplomatic ties with Israel amid brewing tensions in the Middle East.
On September 15, 2020, the UAE was one of the few Arab states to have signed the historic Abraham Accords with Israel at the White House in a deal brokered by former U.S. President Donald Trump. The move urged other Arab states to forge their own ties with Israel. Even the wealthy nation of Saudi Arabia, an influential country in the Arab world and the Middle East, was on the path of normalizing ties. However, the surprise attack launched by Hamas on October 7 delayed negotiations. The attack divided leaders of the Arab and Muslim world and promoted calls for some Arab nations that have forged ties with Israel to cut diplomatic relations with the Jewish state. UAE officials have publicly condemned Israel's actions and repeatedly backed calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. The Gulf state has also launched humanitarian aid campaigns for residents in the war-torn enclave. The UAE's trade minister assured last month that trade ties with Israel will remain, amid brewing tensions and fears for the Israel-Hamas war to spread in the Middle East.
The UAE was one of the Arab nations to have rejected the proposal to cut ties with Israel during the emergency Arab-Islamic summits held in Saudi Arabia this past weekend. Reporting from Dubai, this has been Gratero Omori, SMNI News, United Arab Emirates.
A rare tsunami that hit a municipality in Brazil this past weekend has frightened residents after a huge wave caused cars to be swept away and damaged several properties. Natalia Prado will tell us more live. Natalia?
Yes, David, the massive tsunami that struck Laguna in Santa Catarina served as a wake-up call for authorities to improve monitoring and detection system in the municipality. Footages of the rare tsunami making rounds on social media show us scared residents after the sudden natural disaster disturbed what was supposed to be a relaxing day at the beach. The incident that occurred on Saturday was identified as a meteor tsunami, a form of large waves caused by storms. Meteor tsunamis are caused by disturbances in atmospheric pressure, often associated with the fast-moving meteorological events, such as severe storms, gas fronts, and other storm fronts. The large waves reached the shore of Laguna in the Farol de Santa Marta region and pulled several vehicles that were parked on the edge of the beach into the sea. The institute also reported that the waves advanced quickly because the sea waters were relatively calm, along with the very warm air and the displacement of a cold front from the east of Rio Grande do Sul. The recent natural disaster happened more than 2 months after that the cyclone killed more than 30 people and displaced about 3,500 others in the Brazilian states of Rio Grande do Sul and Santa Catarina. Back to you, David.
Thank you. That's Natalia Prado live from SMNI Studios.
While several Arab states rejected the proposal to cut ties with Israel in an emergency summit held by the Arab and Muslim nations in Saudi Arabia this past weekend. Melchizedek Cadiz reports.
The outcome of a joint summit of the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in the Saudi capital of Riyadh highlighted regional divisions among its leaders. Delegates of the Arab League and the OIC were supposed to meet separately. However, its leaders merged the two summits after Arab League delegations failed to reach an agreement on a final statement. During the summit, some of the delegates proposed to cut all diplomatic and economic relations with Tel Aviv, deny Arab space to Israeli flights, and that the oil-producing Muslim countries should use oil as a means of leverage to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza. Some countries, including Algeria and Lebanon, threatened to disrupt oil supplies to Israel and its allies, as well as urged some Arab League nations to cut economic and diplomatic ties with Israel. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi presented a 10-point plan during the conference, and the severance of the diplomatic relations with Israel or the arming of the Palestinians. Saudi Arabia, considered the de facto leader of the Muslim world, along with the UAE, Jordan, Egypt, Bahrain, Sudan, Morocco, Mauritania, and Djibouti, rejected the proposal to cut ties with Israel. To note, Egypt, Jordan, UAE, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan made the historic move of being the first among a few Arab nations to normalize ties with Israel. The Arab countries pointed out that they need to keep channels of communication open with Israel amid the ongoing crisis. Reporting, this has been Melchizedek Cadiz, SMNI News, Kuwait.
A routine training mission ended in a disaster as U.S. military aircraft crashed in the eastern Mediterranean Sea, leading to the tragic deaths of all 5 on board. On Friday, November 12th, a U.S. military aircraft crashed in the eastern Mediterranean Sea during a routine training mission, resulting in a death of all 5 service members on board. Despite immediate rescue efforts, no one survived. The crash, unrelated to any conflict, occurred during the training with no indication of hostile activity, according to the U.S. European Command. They add to a series of recent U.S. military aircraft crashes, underlining the challenges encountered by the armed forces. An investigation is underway to determine the cause of the crash.
Meanwhile, a massive unrest occurred in Madrid as thousands gathered outside the headquarters of the Spanish Socialist Workers' Party, or PSOE. Sigrid Castaneda has the details.
In Madrid, Spain, thousands have gathered to voice their opposition to a proposed amnesty law related to Catalonia's independence movement. Emotions are running high as demonstrators express their discontent with the government's handling of the situation. Some protesters reportedly threw objects at police officers who were present to secure the area. At least 3,000 people participated in the rally against the proposed amnesty law. This follows an earlier demonstration where an estimated 80,000 to 100,000 people took to the streets of the Spanish capital to voice their opposition to the government's plan. The protests in response to a recent deal struck between Spain's socialists and the Catalans Gens Party. The deal involves support for the formation of a new government in exchange for amnesty for activists and lawmakers involved in the events surrounding the push for Catalan independence from 2012 to the present day. The agreement was officially announced on Thursday by party officials in Brussels, sealing the deal with a party led by Puigdemont, who fled to Belgium after the events surrounding the failed Catalan independence bid in 2017. This deal significantly boosts the chances for Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez to form a leftist coalition government by November 27. This comes after an inconclusive national election in July. If a government cannot be formed by the date, Spain may face a new round of elections in January of next year. Reporting, this has been Sigrid Castaneda, Azamanay News.
Meanwhile, a recent report claimed that Ukrainian military officer was behind the Nord Stream blast and that they acted independently of the leadership of Kiev. Ken Konita reports.
On September 26, 2022, 3 huge explosions caused massive leaks on the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines, which run from Russia to Germany under the Baltic Sea. There were competing theories that emerged as to who was to blame for the sabotage, with Western mainstream media now blaming a Ukrainian commando unit, with Seymour Hersh, an investigative journalist, claimed that the CIA carried out the operation under direct orders from the US president himself. Recently, a Ukrainian military officer who was named in a recent report by Washington Post allegedly played a key role in the bombing of Russia's Nord Stream gas pipelines in 2022. Roman Chervinsky, a decorated 48-year-old Ukrainian colonel with the Special Operations Forces of Ukraine, reportedly managed logistics and support for a 6-person sabotage group that allegedly carried out the attack. But Chervinsky denied the claims, telling the paper, and quotes, "All speculation about my involvement in the attack on Nord Stream are being spread by Russian propaganda without any basis." The paper, however, cited official European and Ukrainian sources as well as what it calls people knowledgeable about the details of the covert operations. According to Western media, a team of Ukrainian commandos used a rented yacht to transport explosives to the blast sites. The CIA and European intelligence agencies were made aware of the plan several months beforehand. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky was reportedly kept out of the loop of the plot. Chervinsky is currently being detained in Ukraine for acting without permission in another clandestine operation that is acted on orders of senior officials who are reporting to General Valery Zaluzny, Ukraine's top military commander. Meanwhile, renowned American investigative journalist Seymour Hersh claimed that it was the United States behind the Nord Stream sabotage and that CIA divers planted explosives last summer with the aid of the Norwegian Navy using a NATO exercise in the region as a cover. Hersh claimed that US President Joe Biden feared that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz would choose rapprochement with Russia over support for Ukraine and ordered the CIA to blow up the pipelines. Hirsch argued that by destroying these pipelines, U.S. intended to sever Germany's energy ties to Russia, and this will prevent Berlin from lifting sanctions on Russia to save its gas-dependent economy. Furthermore, President Biden in early February 2022 warned that, quote, "There will no longer be a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it."
Let me answer the first question first. If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
But how will you do that exactly? Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will. I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
To recall, in March, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that he fully agreed with Hirsch's claims and argued that Washington benefited from the Nord Stream sabotage because of its position as a competing gas supplier to Europe. Reporting, this has been Jane Conita, SMNI News.
A tragedy struck Kohl's flea market in Texas, USA, as a child lost their life and 4 others are injured in a mass shooting. The incident happened on Sunday evening and left 1 child deaf and 4 others injured. The Pearland Police Department responded to a call about shot fired. The incident started with an argument between 2 people who didn't know each other. They exchanged gunfire inside the market, injuring 3 adults and 2 children. However, 1 child didn't survive their injuries and later died at a hospital. Police are actively working to identify the responsible suspect. 1 is still at large, and details about the second shooter are unknown. Here's a Pearland officer, Charles Rogers, stated regarding the incident.
The shooting started between a disturbance between 2 individuals that resulted in the shooting that took place at Kohl's Flea Market, in which we have 5 victims. This does not appear to be a targeted attack on the flea market. Again, this was a disturbance that occurred at the flea market between 2 individuals in which shots were fired. I do not know how many rounds were fired. I do not know how many guns were involved. I don't know if there was 2 shooters, 1 shooter. This information we're trying to get out and get information about. I'm reaching out to the public. If you were there at Kohl's Flea Market tonight and you have any information, we have a tip line set up. 281-997-5828. Again, 281-997-5828. If you saw something that can help us with our investigation, this is a very active investigation. We want to get that information out to our detectives that are working the scene. If you saw something, please call us. Again, you can be left anonymous. That's extremely important for us.
Residents are advised to avoid the area as the investigation continues. The incident follows another tragic shooting in Austin, Texas, the day before, where a police officer lost his life. Both incidents highlight the ongoing challenge of gun violence in the state, prompting thorough investigations as communities cope with the aftermath.
Moving on, Japan has agreed to share real-time information on North Korea's ballistic missiles with the United States and South Korea, preferably by next month. Alisa Torres reports.
Japan, South Korea, and the United States plan to deepen their trilateral defense cooperation through a missile info-sharing system that aims to better detect and assess North Korea's ballistic missile activities. The proposed partnership will enable the 3 nations to detect and track projectiles fired by North Korea more swiftly and accurately by sharing data in real time. The initiative is reportedly in its final stages and will be fully operational by December. Japanese Defense Minister Minoru Kihara said that the 3 countries will strive to further accelerate their work on the mechanism. Defense chiefs from the 3 countries also agreed to launch annual military drills that will be hosted by each respective country. At present, Japan has no known nuclear weapons programs and is a signatory of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The trilateral defense cooperation was forged in the light of North Korea's increasingly frequent ballistic missile launches, which spark concern among the 3 allied nations. Reporting, this has been Alisa Torres, SMNI News.
Some of the major ports in Australia were forced to suspend operations for a day after the country's biggest port operation has been a target of cyber attacks. Devin Suarez has the details.
A cybersecurity incident crippled some of the facilities managed by DP World Australia, the country's leading container terminal and supply chain operator. The massive cyber attack was first detected on Friday. The security breach disrupted operations at container terminals in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and Perth from Friday to Monday morning. Internet connectivity was suspended at the said ports was immediately suspended to prevent any ongoing unauthorized access to its network. Australia's biggest port operator slowly resumed its normal operations on Monday, a few days after the cyber attack incident. However, key exports could be subject to prolonged delays. DP World manages almost 40% of the goods flowing in and out of Australia. Australian Federal Police are now investigating the incident. Government agencies held crisis talks in response to the serious breach on Sunday.
Speaker, the incident at DP World is the latest in a string of cyber attacks which have shaken our country. And this is why this is such a central priority for our government. The DP World incident also, Speaker, shows that some of the critical reforms that our government has put in place in the past 18 months are actually working. Speaker, for many Australians, they're probably not really conscious of the tremendous complexity that's involved in managing a cyber incident of this size. In the case of DP World, we have a company here that manages 40% of freight movements in and out of our country. The implications for a shutdown, even briefly, on the ports are very widespread, affecting most of the parts of the Australian economy.
Reporting from New South Wales, this is Devi Suarez, SMNI News, Australia.
Continuing, the province of Sultan Kudarat is set to establish a tuition-free college of medicine for its students. Let's find out more about this with Jane Calabroso.
Duly seconded that we approve House Bill 6771 with its committee report, subject to style and amendments. Hearing no objection, motion carried.
House Bill 6771, aimed at establishing a College of Medicine at Sultan Kudarat State University, has received approval from the House Committee on Higher and Technical Education. During the hearing on Monday, the bill's author, Sultan Kudarat 1st District Representative Princess Rihan Sakaluran and Governor Datu Pax Ali Mangudadatu defended compliance with all requirements set by the Commission on Higher Education.
SKSU has already complied with the minimum standards and requirements provided in the CHED Memorandum or Order Number 18, Series of 2016.
Mr. Chair, over the long term, it is better that the hospital that they will use will be in Sultan Kudarat.
Mr. Chair, may I be
Governor,
recognized?
do you have a hospital within Sultan Kudarat?
I would like to inform the good chairman of CHED that St. Elizabeth Hospital is in the same region with the province of Sultan Kudarat. Hindi po kami parte ng BARM. Kami po ay nasa Region 12 Soxargen as well. At yung distance po ng St. Elizabeth Hospital to the province of Sultan Kudarat is only 1 hour. Minsan 45 minutes nga lang po.
According to Representative Sakaluran and Governor Mangudadatu, the bill aims to increase the number of medical professionals in the country contributing to the health care of Filipinos.
Napakalaking tulong po nito sa aming probinsya dahil marami pong estudyante na gustong mag-aral ng medicine but pumupunta pa po sila sa ibang probinsya, sa ibang region para makapag-aral. And with this help of our House Bill 6771 na pagtatayo ng pagkakaroon ng College of Medicine sa Sultan Kudarat, mas magiging magaan na po para sa ating mga estudyante at mas darami pa po ang mga darating na doctors po natin na from Sultan Kudarat.
Currently, if we are going to study the universal healthcare, kinakailangan po natin ng isang doktor sa bawat 20,000 na katao. So sabi namin, kung kailangan natin habulin na ito at makita natin statistics, kulang pa talaga ang ating mga medical professionals at mga doctors. Kaya kinakailangan that we establish universities or colleges or training facilities where we're in na magkaroon po tayo ng additional medical professionals who will help us take care of the health of our Filipino people.
The governor adds that students at the College of Medicine in the province will not incur any fees.
With our programs with this College of Medicine, I'm very happy to announce that together with SKSU and the provincial government, ay okay na po ang ating mga facility. Meron na po tayong building para sa ating mga medical students. Tatayo din po tayo ng mga dormitory para sa kanila. And we will ensure na ang ating mga estudyante na mag-aaral sa College of Medicine, wala silang babayaran. At kami pa nga nag-iisip ng paraan kung paano namin mabigyan sila ng allowance. Nang sa ganun, pag nag-graduate sila, they will serve with the provincial government of Sultan Kudarat in our medical missions, in our provincial hospitals, at napakarami pang iba.
Meanwhile, the proposed bill will undergo plenary debate for the second and third readings in Congress. The governor and his colleagues are hopeful that Congress will pass the establishment of the College of Medicine in their province.
Hopefully, next year, with the permission of the Commission on Higher Education and with the support of both the House of Representatives and the Senate, ay magkakaroon na po tayo ng Sultan Kudarat College of Medicine.
So we believe that this bill is a step towards attaining our targets, which is the provision of adequate healthcare professionals for our country. So ako po ay natutuwa para po sa probinsya po ng Sultan Kudarat at hopefully maipasa po natin ang batas na ito sa Kongreso.
Reporting from the House of Representatives for God of my beloved Philippines, this has been Jade Calabroso, SMNA News.
Thousands of riders took center stage at the Motorism Adventure event in the Sultan Kudarat. This is part of the upcoming Kalimutan Festival this year. MJ Modahar tell us more.
In the early hours on Sunday, thousands of riders gathered at the capital grounds of Sultan Kudarat. This gathering aims not only to enjoy but also to explore the province's tourist destinations. The riders are participants of the Sultan Kudarat Sox Motorism Adventure. This is part of the activities for the 25th Kalimutan Festival this year. Those who joined expressed delight in the ride, noting that every checkpoint they passed was filled with food. Celebrity motovlogger Jet Li led the activity alongside the other motovloggers. This is part of the promotions for Philippine motorcycle tourism. During their tour, riders affirmed two things. One, that Mindanao, especially Sultan Kudarat, is safe for motorism. Two, the province is well prepared to welcome numerous visitors to the festival this year. The event received support from the Department of Tourism.
This motorism event is a feat that's hard to beat. This is the first time ever in Mindanao that there are more than 1,500 riders. And ang maganda nga dito because it's showing that Sultan Kudarat and Soxargen is really a very safe destination.
Motovlogger Jet Li clarified her personal experience in Mindanao, especially since she was once a victim of false beliefs that the region is dangerous for tourists.
Takot din akong pumunta ng Mindanao dahil sa mga sabi-sabi nila na delikado, may mga ganyan. But nung time na pumunta ko dito, di pala totoo. And sobrang ganda. Dapat nilang puntahan. So every time na tinatanong ako ngayon, as a Philippine Motorcycle Tourism Ambassador, every time tinatanong ako kung ano yung favorite place kong puntahan, palagi ko sinasabing Soxargen.
The Sultan Kudarat provincial government showered prizes during the fellowship night for the riders in the motorism event. Some took home raffle items and, of course, cash, courtesy of Governor Datu Pax Ali Mangudadatu. This is just one of the highlights for the one-month-long celebration of the 25th Kalimutan Festival. It also coincides with the 50th founding anniversary of the province of Sultan Kudarat.
Huwag niyong i-skip niyan guys dahil sobrang amazing dito and sobrang ako nag-i-enjoy. So you should experience Sultan Kudarat. There's so much more to love Sultan Kudarat.
For Ganamabul of Philippines, MJ Mondihar, SMNI News.
House Speaker Martin Romualdez commends Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte for her decision to withdraw the request for the confidential funds. Let's delve into Jade Calabroso's report.
House Speaker Martin Romualdez praised Vice President and Education Secretary Sara Duterte for opting not to request confidential funds for her office in 2024. The Office of the Vice President sought 500 million pesos in confidential funds, while the Department of Education requested 150 million pesos for the upcoming year. In a previous statement, Vice President Sara mentioned that she would no longer seek confidential fund, citing its divisive nature. According to Speaker Romualdez, the Vice President's decision is the right one.
I believe that's the right decision, and we hail VP Sara's decision.
Meanwhile, Speaker Romualdez assures that the unit team remains strong, especially in its relationship with the Vice President.
Well, we'll always work together. It's still a unity, and the President always wants us to work together, not just in Congress, with the executive, but as a country. So we will always strive for that.
He emphasizes that despite their differing beliefs, their common goal is to serve the Filipino people.
As they always say, there will always be differences, but we will always work towards resolving those differences for the service of the Filipino people. That is our primordial concern. That we will band together and unite as one for the service of the people.
For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Jade Calabroso, SMNA News.
Thailand wants to deepen bilateral ties with China through the massive infrastructure projects under the Belt and Road Initiative. Chatbongkon Pisamay-Gozon reports.
The government of Thailand expressed its appreciation for being a partner of China in sectors like energy and high-speed rail construction and hope for expanded partnership in the coming years. In a recent interview, Deputy Prime Minister of Thailand, Pirapasali Ratvipak, relayed the country's willingness to strengthen cooperation with China through the Belt and Road Initiative before attending a meeting of political parties and think tanks from Southeast and South Asian countries in the Chinese city of Kunming held a few days ago.
10 years ago, he proposed the initiative, which originated from China's ancient Silk Road. The Silk Road played an important role in promoting economic and social connectivity among Southeast Asian countries. Thailand is very glad to join the initiative, which encompasses relevant concepts in clean energy. It is consistent with the energy policies put forward by our government.
The Deputy Prime Minister also expressed Thailand's desire to expand ties with Thailand beyond the infrastructure sector.
Currently, I serve as the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Energy of the Thai government, and I'm in charge of related work in the energy sector. So I hope that in future, Thailand and China can vigorously strengthen cooperation on clean energy, as well as cooperation in basic energy, including petroleum, fuel oil, and electricity.
The Thai official said that the BRI's move of promoting connectivity in transportation attracted many countries like Thailand that are very supportive of high-speed railway development. The Deputy Prime Minister expressed the Thai government's determination to accelerate the construction of the Thai-China Railway and to solve any challenges during the implementation of the project. รายงานจากราชบุรีนายชัดมงคลวิสมัยโกศล SMN News ประเทศไทย สวัสดีครับ
Meanwhile, the Department of Philippine Tourism, headed by Secretary Maria Cristina Frasco, attends the opening of the World Travel Marketing, or WTM, event at Excel London, which is happening from November 6 to 8, 2023, to achieve its goal of becoming the next tourism powerhouse of Asia. Rose Ann Samion reports.
Department of Tourism Secretary Maria Cristina Frasco visits London for the second time to attend the World Trade Market here in London to promote Philippine tourism. Since the designation of Secretary Maria Cristina Frasco as the head of Tourism Department, she has introduced various programs and innovations to increase the number of tourists coming to the Philippines. One of its ways is joining events such as the World Trade Market in London to promote what the Philippines has to offer. World Trade Market London is considered the most influential travel and tourism event globally, as it brings together the international leisure travel community, providing inspiration, education, sourcing, and benchmarking to travel professionals, while providing exhibitors a place to do business and showcase their services to the international press. This is the second time that the Secretary is attending such an event, and she gladly updates our countrymen of the achievements and developments so far of the Department of Tourism.
Masaya po tayo dahil as far as this year is concerned, malapit na po natin ma-reach yung ating 4.8 million goal by the end of the year kasi nagka 4.5 million international arrivals na po tayo. And we're also very optimistic that we will exceed the 102 million domestic trips that were taken from last year. So far, tourism has employed over 5.35 million Filipinos po. Kaya naman we are hopeful that with all the efforts of our President,
under the Marcos administration, mas madadagdagan pa natin yung ating tourism employment across our destinations.
The Philippine booth showcased the best tourist spots in the Philippines, such as Intramuros, Palawan, Bohol, and many others. The Philippine delegation also took pride of its best asset, the Filipino people, with Filipinos' hospitality and talent, offering a glimpse of the country's distinct identity and culture. The secretary also shared what more to expect from their department and how they are addressing all the challenges of being a tourist in the country. They are aiming to give tourists their best experience so that they can achieve their ultimate goal for the country, which is to become the tourism powerhouse of Asia.
Yung Pilipinas ay maging tourism powerhouse ng Asia. Kaya naman po, yung ginagawa natin is tourism transformation. We're addressing the very basic challenges as well as taking bold steps towards innovation, sustainability, and inclusivity in our tourism development. We're addressing challenges in infrastructure. We're working hard to increase connectivity to the Philippines in terms of international flights and domestic flights across our destinations. Also trying to look at how we can further expand our cruise tourism portfolio since we are now Asia's best cruise destination.
Lastly, the Good Secretary thanked all Filipinos for their support and encouraged each one to become the ambassador of our country and to love the Philippines.
Nagpapasalamat po ako sa ating mga kababayang Pilipino sa walang kakupas-kupas na pagmamahal sa Pilipinas. There are so many reasons to love the Philippines, and this enhanced tourism branding campaign of the Marcos administration is precisely a call to action to our fellow Filipinos to tell the world what there is to love about the Philippines and to remind our friends from all over the world that it's time to visit or revisit our country. I encourage our fellow Filipinos to continue to be our tourism ambassadors of the Philippines. And I very much look forward to seeing especially our overseas Filipino workers and overseas Filipinos living all over the world to come home to bring a guest through our Bisita Be My Guest program, as they do have a chance also to win exciting prizes if they register in our BBMG website.
For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Rose Ann Samyon, SMNI News, United Kingdom.
The Department of Philippine Tourism held its grand launch of its new strategic program called Bisita Be My Guest in London to attract more tourists coming from the United Kingdom. Bridget Valencia to tell us more details.
We are here right now at the Millennium Gloucester Hotel, London, to celebrate the grand launch of the Bisita Be My Guest program of the Philippine Department of Tourism, spearheaded by Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco. After attending the opening of the World Trade Market at Excel London in the morning, November 6, 2023, the Good Secretary headed to Millennium Gloucester Hotel in the evening to grace the official launching of the Bisita Be My Guest program by the Tourism Department. In this program, Filipinos abroad are encouraged to become the ambassadors of our country by inviting foreigner friends to come and visit the Philippines. They then need to register to get a chance of winning rewards and incentives when a tourist visits the country. The night showcased the unique identity of being a Filipino with dancing and singing and a little bit of beatboxing. The Philippine ambassador to the UK, Sir Teodoro Locsin, then welcomed the secretary and the rest of its team here in London, and he expressed his delight to the result of the department's effort to thrive.
This morning, I was honored and delighted to be at the Philippine booth. I observed firsthand the interest that people have in our beautiful country. Having met and talked with the Secretary and their people, I can confidently say that we are ready to claim our spot as the new tourism powerhouse of Asia.
The Chief Operating Officer of the Marketing and Promotions of the Department of Tourism, Ma'am Maria Margarita Nograles, introduced the whole delegation of the Tourism Department who came to support the promotion of the said program, including local government officials, congressmen and congresswomen from the different provinces of the Philippines. Secretary Maria Cristina Frasco then gave updates on the development of tourism in the country, the achieved goals so far, and the future plans that they are yet to fulfill.
I'm very pleased to inform you that the Philippines continues to be a top-of-mind destination all over the world. And recently, we have been able to successfully defend for the 5th year in a row our title as Asia's leading dive destination. And recently, for the very first time, the Philippines was awarded Asia's best cruise destination with over 128 ports of call across our 33 islands in the country.
Finally, the Goods Secretary invites all Filipinos to support this program for a better Philippines.
And through the Bisita Be My Guest program, we hope to be able to channel our overseas Filipinos here in the UK to become tourism ambassadors for our country. We are the Philippines, and with your help, we will be able to reintroduce the Philippines to the world on the strength of the Filipino identity.
President Bongbong Marcos and Vice President Sara Duterte also sent their video-recorded congratulatory messages. Raffle tickets were drawn as well that night, and some won cash prizes and holiday tickets. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Bridget Valencia, SM9 News, United Kingdom.
182 barangay officials took their oath in Davao City, led by Mayor Sebastian Duterte, who reiterated that newly elected officials should prioritize public service over personal interests. The details of this report from Jean Domingo.
After the recent election where winning candidates were declared in each barangay and sangguniang kabataan, a mass oath-taking ceremony for all newly elected barangay officials was held in Davao City just recently.
This is a very significant day because it's the oath-taking of the newly elected barangay officials of Davao City, which is recognized by our Mayor Sebastian Duterte. So we are very grateful about this day of recognizing us barangay officials. So we are really thankful for this day.
Importante gyud ni kani kay maka-take-out naman mi. Even though nga ako gyapon ang incumbent nga kapitan, pero kinahanglanon magyud sa among pagpangalagan nga nagyud-tikot nga mahitabo karong adlaw. Siguro nabarako pagod pasalamat sa akong mga kaigsuonan o mga katawan sa barangay nako nga ihatagan pagyud ko nila og panahon nga mo serbisyo sa ilang tanan. So akong ikuan nga unsa may gibuhat nako sa first term nako nga ako gyapon buhaton karon sa second term nako.
Importante yun siya. It's because nadaog ko, ikatulo na term na nako, mo graduate na. Lipay kayo ko, kay kisaligan pag yun ko pag-ayos sa mo ang mga katawan sa barangay.
According to Barangay Captain Omar Duterte, son of 1st District Representative Paulo Duterte, and grandson of former President Rodrigo Duterte, as a member of a political family, he was always reminded to prioritize service first.
Kung ako man advice ko for good work ko ito naturo to sa akin since I was I'm 9 years old talaga. Ito lang talaga isang word na sabi parati sa akin ng forefathers ko is service lang talaga. Service, yun lang talaga, service sa tao, service sa your constituents. Yan lang talaga dapat ang core mo. So, ako, yan lang talaga lalahin dapat na you're here, sila ang boss mo. So, you're here to make everybody's lives better. Well, yung last namin usap, sabi nila sa akin is do your best lang talaga. Kasi ang mga tao, they trusted you. So, you have to give your all sa mga tao.
The said ceremony was attended by elected barangay captains and kagawad from the 182 barangays in Davao City, led by Davao City Mayor Sebastian Duterte. In his speech, the mayor strongly reminded the new officials to put aside personal interest and prioritize the needs and services of the people.
Di man gud ni ginahatag sa tanan, di ni ginahatag sa tanan. Unya kung mahatag man si Moha, di pagkaparatiha, kwaon ra po na sa mga dili kitungod nimo pero kitungod sa mga tao nga nipili nato diri. Mao na lagi. So, niti man ina ninyo. Ang kini nga trabaho man gud, iwit gid nimo una-unaon imong kaugalingon. Una gid permente ang imuhang mga constituents, imuhang so inyuha na may umpan diri kay nasilingan nimo, takdo nimo tanan ba? Iwit na nimo matagad imong kaugalingon, iwit na nimo tagad imong pamilya. Kini nga ato ang posisyon man as elected officials o sa Sudan. This has to be a selfless. You have to have a selfless disposition. Hindi magsilbi kung ikaw ang sa una-una nimo, tanaw nimo, status lang nimo, posisyon lang imong habol. Dili kahimo gyud og gwapo nga lugar.
Meanwhile, newly elected Tamayong Barangay Captain Crescente Canada agreed with Mayor Sebastian Duterte's suggestion and declared that as newly elected officials, they are ready to perform their duties and prioritize the needs of the people. It can be recalled that Barangay Tamayong received full support from the Kingdom of Jesus Christ, led by Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, during the recent election. He also added that he is now ready to perform his duties as a public servant.
May hapon, gwapo kayo ang isorti sa amuang alangdon nga Mayor Bastido Corte na wala na ibangian. Dapat magkahiusa ang tanan para sa kausuwagan sa Davao City. Labi na sa mga bagong elected na punong barangay o sa mga kagawad. Gwapo kay pamaagi karon kay wala na ibangiay. Ang tanan nagkahiusa, isara ang kausa para pauswagon ang matag barangay o ang tibok Davao City magpadayon nga mauswagon malinawon. O salamat sa isiminay crew, labi na sa founding president Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy. Sir, daghang salamat. Mayong hapon kaninyong tanan.
Reporting, this has been Jean Domingo, SM9 News.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the message of the appointed Son of God. Hate lead us to destruction. Love lead us to the unity of the invisible God.
For our Christmas countdown, it's only 41 days to go before Christmas. And that's all for tonight's edition of Newsline World. For more news update, you may visit us on SMNInewschannel.com or follow us on our official social media accounts on Rumble, Facebook, and Twitter. For God and Country, I'm Mayk Oliveira.
For God and Country, I'm Deivid Lira. Thank you for watching Newsline World, and thank you to our beloved pastor, Pastor Apollo Sikibuloy, for the opportunity to be part of this program.
Thank you very much, Pastor, and may you always continue to listen on SMNI as it delivers nothing but fair, truthful, and balanced news, because SMNI is your source of credible news.